So I'm out here today on the TET, the Trans-Euro Trail, somewhere near Sheffield. And the plan over the next couple of days is to travel via the TET or to the Lake District. And I'm taking the 790 Adventure. I've got some, I'm a little bit loaded up. I've got some luggage on here. I'm still running fairly stock, so it'll be interesting to see what the bike does in the specific conditions. I've had a previous video about different mods that I've made, but they're all mostly kind of upgrades and aesthetical things, not really changing that much about the performance of the bike itself. So overall, still more or less stock. I've still got the stock tyres on here as well, so that could be interesting. It's a little bit wet today, and I don't really know. I haven't been on. Basically, from now on is unknown TET territory for me. So it'll be interesting to see the route. Interesting to see what this bike does. Interesting to see where I've got the skills that can make it. Let's see what happens. I think one of the first things I think I'm going to have to get used to is gates. I kind of stopped and organised myself, and took a while to get through the last gate, and within 10 seconds I'm at another. So I'm going to have to get used to the transitions and the adventure dismount. Lots of gates. I think usually they come in pairs, I suppose, for cattle, where they potentially need to cinch them in some cases. So providing this part of the route is a little bit longer. This might be the last one for a little while. Yeah, it does feel a little bit loose. I mean, when you're slow, I think the extra weight I can feel immediately. I usually don't carry this much weight. The extra weight is some extra clothes, a little bit more food than I need. I just got a little bit lazy of kind of doing it all up front rather than doing it on the road, but it'd be just easy to do it on the road, so I kind of broke my own rule there. These panniers haven't used them before. I've had them for a while. Honestly, I'm not sure of the idea of panniers, soft panniers versus a singular bag for various reasons, but we'll see how they go. Hopefully they don't flap around too much and unbalance the bike. That's been my main concern. There's a bit of sand. I haven't had a bit of sand in a while. Okay. My route. I get mentioned on previous videos. One good thing about this, I don't know if it's this bike, but the one thing that I like about this bike is that you can take things pretty slow. It's kind of got this forgiving long second gear and good weight distribution with the tanks and so on. So you don't have to charge everything. You don't have to do anything overly slow either. It just you can kind of pick your own pace. And on stuff like this, I could kind of be charging across it, I feel. But actually, starting out a route and being cautious, the bike feels good. I would expect parts of the route to be quite wet today. Obviously you can pick and choose when the route is wider. Now, what goes up must come down. And what I don't like as much as going up is going down. Already picking bad route here. I'm right in the middle of everything. Stalled it, that's okay, who cares? Start up again probably. should have stayed here on the right. Thing is, the mistake. I make multiple mistakes going downhill. One cardinal one is I have a temptation to look directly in front of me. But you know, when you're going slow, I guess it's kind of okay. You know, you're highly focused on adapting to what's happening, you know, in front of the front wheel and so on. But you become over responsive and you can overcompensate and so on, which in downhill is not a good thing. A second thing I've had to adjust is getting kind of that brake proportion right. I think, you know, you eventually, like anything, start to do it by feel. The more you practice. So practicing is a big thing. But initially, you know, you're kind of all over the place in your head around front brake, back brake. Oh well, as little front brake as possible, obviously, but you need front brake for stopping. Relying on the back brake without sliding out the back. You know, rarely stopping is another one as well, going downhill. Temptation is to kind of, something's going wrong, or it always feels like something's going wrong, so you're kind of stopping and starting, or maybe jabbing the brakes and stuff, but you're just going to wash the front. So you kind of need to keep going and flowing and getting momentum without getting too much momentum and so on. But yeah, this leveled out nicely. Just kind of bouncing along here. I suppose, you know, these big rocks and so on, and not boulders, but, you know, slightly bigger rocks. You can feel the suspension a little bit, I guess. You know, that stock suspension. It's not huge. It doesn't have a huge amount of travel. So it gets a little bouncy on the bigger stuff. But again, go slow, you know, you can kind of roll it rather than hit them. And that all goes away. So depending on your riding style and experience, it might annoy you or not annoy you. In my case, it doesn't really annoy me too much. Or not annoy me, but throw me off. This is quite nice. Looks like people generally are going this way, which is cool. Trying to be relatively precise. I'm still sitting here just because I'm kind of going slow and taking it easy initially. No harm in sitting down. I think it saves. I wouldn't say. Well, I don't know. People say, you know, conserve energy by standing up. I don't know if that's true. You can obviously conserve energy by sitting down. But if you're sitting down and kind of fighting the bike in some conditions, I guess that would be the exception. Be kind of thinking about the horse while I'm thinking about doing the downhill at the same time. So I have no harm in giving a bit of a berth. And then it's easy enough to get past probably in this far end. So I'll go to the bottom and see how far she's got from that point. Yeah, it's easy over here. Yeah, it's like people complain, you know, I suppose with the KTMs in general, you know, people typically cite, you know, stalling issues or stalling concerns. I never really find it. I didn't really find it on the 390 too much. Don't really find it on this bike. So that's cool. Hiya, how you doing? No worries. I suppose I can't be stopping for everyone all day long, but it's quite nice out here. No rush. Right. Stay out nice and wide. Hiya, thank you. Cheers. end of it again. Cheers! Nice little bit of horse to rider cooperation there. Not that I would expect any otherwise. Most people are nice. I think, watching videos where people react badly on these routes, there's not much blame on either side, of course. It's like one of those things. But I think for a motorcyclist's part in it all, the main thing is don't startle anyone. I think that's kind of common one. You just startle people. And there's different reasons why people get startled. It might be obviously they didn't hear you coming, or they have heard you coming, but they're concerned about your speed or whatever. And anyway, you create that reaction, which is kind of this startle kind of fear response thing. And they're not going to respond well to you from that point forward. At least not externally. I think in a way they're concerned about you, which is a positive thing. To some extent, and it's best to see it that way so you don't get too frustrated yourself and kind of exacerbate the situation. So overall, yeah, just avoid startling anyone on these trails, and I feel like you'll make things easier for yourself. So I've just stopped for lunch after a fairly difficult section where I realised I was getting a bit tired. It was very muddy, had very little traction, mud and these tires don't do well. So took a stop, a bit of a breather, made some lunch, stocked up all the mistakes I made so far on the trip. Didn't take any form of ID, which will be, just small inconveniences with that because I'm staying someplace that needs an ID, but I'll figure that out. Didn't take enough water this morning. So, drinking pretty well, of course, but up to this point, got to lunch, don't have much water left. Obviously not a big deal. I'm not exactly in the wilderness. I can get some water. But because I was sitting down for lunch, I didn't have quite enough water for that. So I had to improvise a little bit, which ultimately resulted in me borrowing some water from some tubs over here, using a filter, and now boiling. I think worse. I'm sure it'll be fine, but these are the compromises you make. All the bike and all the gear, I'm doing well so far. The TET is a really nice mixture of, kind of keeping off the beaten track. I don't think I've made that good progress. I'm probably not even in the Yorkshire Dales yet. So have to traverse the whole of that in theory today, and a little bit of tomorrow to be kind of on time with my original plan. But worst case, I can kind of shortcuts and go straight at some point if necessary. But yeah, so far so good. Overall, enjoying it. So I'm about an hour into the route now, or into the TET now, and it's been great. It's like the routes are really good for big adventure bikes. They're challenging, but like not too challenging. So far. I think I kind of expect it's going to be harder in the Lake District itself is kind of, I think the difficulty will go up naturally over the curve of the route, which is the right way to have it, I guess. You know, as I get more kind of warmed up, the harder it's going to get. This is right, yeah. Pretty sure it is. It is like seeking out, kind of off-road, almost like options, you know, that you might not spend much time on, but you're making the most of whatever public bridleways there are, which is maybe a little bit disjointed sometimes. You know, you're kind of turning back on yourself, getting a short amount of route, and then kind of resuming the journey, maybe back the way you were already on, things like that, which is good. You know, you get as much off-road as possible, but when you're kind of also kind of travelling, it is maybe a little bit time consuming. But to some extent, I don't have a hard time limit measured in days rather than hours. So I feel like I can make it work. These gate changes aren't getting any faster. Okay. Also, another sort of tip, I guess, for green lanes is sometimes it's just better to stay in the rut you're already on, as in sometimes you'll eye up, you know, a slight improvement going left or right, you know, coming out of a certain section or whatever. But actually sometimes it's just better to stay in the rut you're already in, because what can happen is you can end up getting like side, or you can end up on the side of the tyre, and really that's the main thing you want to avoid, I think, above most other things, especially on a sort of a road tyre. There's not a huge amount of forgiveness for kind of almost breaking my own road here. It's quite narrow. Whoop. Okay, drop it. There's not much forgiveness for being set on the side of the tyre, so kind of avoid that at all costs. So if you've got a bit of a rut, sometimes it's better to just stay at it. And also applies to like big puddles. You know, don't go out of your way to avoid puddles. Most puddles, you know, be prepared of course, but most puddles are generally fine or almost already part of the road itself, so you can kind of expect them to be as smooth as the road leading into it. I mean, there are some exceptions of course, but yeah, avoiding getting out of the puddle or avoiding the puddle can be a thing that can get you to about a bother. So just kind of commit as much as possible. You know, making good decisions ahead of time obviously help, no matter what, but still. Oop, am I still... Oh, okay, I'm going that way, that makes sense. I thought I was going the other way. Oh, making bad off-mounting decisions. Oh, look how nice it is though. I mean, I kind of expect more of the same. But yeah, most vantage points are pretty beautiful / peaceful. Well, I mean, oh, that's just an open gate, okay. Wonder if or when I'm going to get very muddy boots. I feel like maybe it's inevitable. Oh, they're already pretty muddy to be fair, but I haven't had to actually submerge myself yet. Alright, so I'm a few hours in now. Took a little bit of on-road to speed the whole journey up a little bit. So I'm closer now to, I don't know, geography's bad, Yorkshire Dales probably, something like that. I'll correct on screen. And it started to get a bit more challenging on the old TET. Still managing, I have dropped it actually, but off the side stand, classic. A little while ago, where it was off camper and after a gate or whatever, and I dropped it. And it was pretty hard to pick up with the extra luggage on, which I guess is no surprise. Just come across, I was like looking at this water, and I was like, oh, is this like a big extended water crossing? But it's not. But the downhill getting here was pretty tricky. Like big rocks, big boulders, and I'm like starting to think, is this like what's to come? Is it going to get more difficult going into the genuine Dales area? But like I say, I am managing to do it, so the one thing that is a bit of a challenge is these tires and wet and anything that's slimy or muddy. It's immediately off on its side, which makes it interesting. Not bad tires. I mean, you'll be able to do most of these things, and they're good on road, obviously. But yeah, they do get caked up pretty fast. And I was on some grass earlier, mud and grass, prior to dropping it kind of at the gate, and it was literally it's double sideways, pretty much the whole way down to the section. But managed to save it each time and so on, and it was okay. The suspension feels a little bit soft sometimes when you're coming off the really big like steps and stuff. It really does drop, but it doesn't like bottom out as long as you're obviously not going too fast. Oh god, I hate these downhills. The question is, am I going? I assume I'm going straight down. Oh, lost my map. There we go. I mean, it just says straight. Alright. Oh god, it's so steep. Oh, I hit these massively steep things. As soon as a boulder sends it sideways, you suddenly it all goes a bit pear-shaped. And there's a fair bit of grip here at least. But I'm going to have to choose my line wisely going through here because a lot of loose rock. Probably this far side. Oh, do you want to stop? Yes. Oh god, that's pretty rough. Looks good beyond that though. Yeah, just this section to navigate. I can't really not do it or stop. Just gonna have to be careful. I might just walk it. So first, yeah. Now it's that fine line of being too slow, where something just stops the tire dead, which is worse. Oh god, that's pretty bad. I'm going to DV on the far side, but I'm a bit too committed. I'm going to have to stay on the far left and see what comes up with around this corner. At least it's, too soon there. At least it's not at least it is stopping when I want it to. I don't have any foot down on my don't have any foot down on my right foot. So if it does go right, I'm kind of screwed. So I'll keep my foot on this back. Hopefully the traction holds. If the back starts to slide in front of the front, I'll have lost it. I mean, this stone is, at least it's reasonably grippy. I'm going to have to get around these stones here. I'm on that one a bit. Is it going to catch? Okay. I don't know, it's like I see some people literally just, you know, getting a proper roll on through these and just kind of getting them over with, but even watching them gives me the sweats. Right now may be my time to go over. It's a bit more muddy on the side though. Oh god, this is a massive step. I think it is. Alright, I'm gonna have to go far right again. I mean, that's probably a little bit better actually, but too late. Thing is, you can't, like, get down any other way because the bike's too heavy to, like, manhandle, so you have to stay on it. There's quite a lot of momentum here, so we just have to let it go and try to stop again. Whoa. Okay. And basically got clutch in here, which probably isn't best practice because the engine, I mean, one thing about the KTM is it doesn't have basically any engine braking, which some people cite not liking that, especially on the road, because it doesn't really assist with you know, going into corners and so on, and also downhill. You know, you can't really rely on engine braking as part of your repertoire, and it would be a little bit handy here, but it's not there, so you're using the brakes more. Might seem that I'm going very, very slow here, and I am. But I don't want to be dropping it down this hill. Okay, that's the worst of it. It's turning into an actual lane now, that's good. Okay, back on the pegs. Phew! I'm a little bit hot after that. I mean, it makes the usual kind of rough road seem easy. That's sometimes where your skill goes up a little bit. You know, you go on something too hard, and then the lessons of the things that are at kind of the edge of your ability make the things that are slightly, you know, in your slightly above your comfort zone easier still, and that's kind of where your skill starts to add up. Yeah, happy with that. If it was muddy rather than stony, it would have posed more of a challenge, but nice. And the reward is a nice view. you don't know sometimes. I guess, well, I don't know anything. I don't know this any of the TET really, apart from stuff that's closer to home. It's like sometimes you're worried, not worried, but sometimes you think you want a bit of a break, and it's just like on to the next hard section. We'll see. I think there's probably a more sustained TET the further I get into the park here. So yeah, that's good or a bad thing. I am looking to camp in a few hours, so I suppose the more remote I can get for that, the better. And yeah, again, you know, at this kind of pace, uphill, you don't really need to get up in the pegs. I've done a lot of kind of off-road sitting, you know, because partly just from riding bikes that weren't suitable for being off-road, which you know, there's just not really a way to stand up. In India, I rode quite a lot in India for about 3 years on and off, and would rent different bikes, you know, and I had all of the, not all, but like a good proportion of the Royal Enfields, old Bullets and classics, and you know, obviously the Himalayan as well. That doesn't really count. And when I had them, you know, if you're off-road, because that's India, you'll end up off-road if you go anywhere sort of slightly adventurous. So sitting down and trying to, you know, handle that weight was just what you had to do. I wasn't a particularly experienced rider at that time either, but I never really dropped it. Again, learning to ride within my kind of within my skill set or lack thereof became the thing then, you know, to not limit or expose yourself to any danger. You know, you kind of take thing for the pace that the bike could handle, which wasn't that much. So yeah, riding off-road, setting down was a skill I guess I learned early on by necessity. You know, I still definitely advocate / see the benefit of standing up as well, but kind of bumbling along, conserving energy, no shame in sitting down. Not that it's any way comparable, but Kobe Price spends most of his time sitting down doing the Dakar, so you know, there's a way of doing it, even for the more difficult stuff. That's a little cool little house up here. I like the grade of this road. It's difficult, but not too difficult. What is that? Is that a bothy? It looks almost like a bothy, but I don't think you get too many bothies up here. Tempted to check it out though. Nearly lost it then. That's pretty loose. Oh yeah, it's got a path as well. That's kind of interesting. I think this could be my campsite of the night. Is it a bothy? I mean, let's say that it is. A bit cheeky. But if you don't tell anyone, I won't. So yeah, good day overall, I would say. Managed to find somewhere to camp, sort of. We'll see if I get moved on later on. Pretty secluded, but you know, you never know. Maybe these places get checked too. But yeah, good day. Did a big portion of the TET, a nice mixture of kind of on-road but kind of off-road at the same time, an actual fairly difficult or challenging off-road as well, and all of it was challenging, which is a good thing as well, as in some of it was very accessible, with maybe 2 sections that were more difficult. Where's my actual pot of food? Oh yeah. I used to get a wireless, unfortunately. Not really a top tip. I mean, we'll see after I eat it, but canned food is cheaper and more straightforward than dedicated camping meals, and because they're obviously already like sauce based or whatever, the overall taste is going to be better. It's going to be like kind of a real thing. At least that's the hope. I've got some spicy curry from M&S. I'm going to try to cook it in a tin, which is a little bit of an experiment, but I don't want to ruin the pot. The stuff gets burned into pots pretty easily, whereby I don't mind if this tin gets a little bit compromised at the bottom. So I'm boiling a little bit of water and then I put a bit of tin in it. Already made some couscous, that's going pretty well. Okay, let's go. Downstairs at night, bubble in the wrong place. Let's do that and see what happens. Close the lid over. Could take a while. Yeah, I don't know what this building is. It feels like it could have been a bothy, or I guess the equivalent of a shepherd's hut. It's all locked up pretty tight, which is fair enough. But it's a good platform for a bivvy. I've got a bivvy set up behind the bike. I was kind of debating before I came about whether I'd go bivvy or tent. But while camping, tent's like quite conspicuous. It just immediately looks like you are camping. Whereby bivvy, low profile, you can't really see it. Especially when it gets a little bit later or a little bit dark. So overall, if you are going to wild camp, a bivvy is better. And I don't know, there's not a huge amount of compromise. It isn't more comfortable being a tent, in my opinion, as such. You've got privacy, but like privacy from who? I mean, campsite of course, but the way I use a tarp and so on, I mean, maybe they would see your face if they really wanted to peer underneath your tarp, but I mean, who cares? So yeah, and I don't know if I think the Rhino Walk panniers did pretty well. They were, I didn't feel them move too much. I did drop the bike once, and I almost dropped it on a U-turn. Need to practice just general U-turns more, because on a heavy bike it does catch me out sometimes still, even though it's a basic thing. Cook like the bottom, but I don't really see how it's going to cook.
catch it as well. But yeah, the riding walks were pretty alright. It's hard to get a. I mean, maybe it's the same with all of the sort of soft panniers, but with the sort of side panels on, it's quite difficult to get a good fixing, which is. But yeah, it didn't seem to flop around too much. But when I did try to pick it up after a bit of a fall, it was a bit of a struggle. Because you kind of got weight going against you, and then going against you kind of the other way quite quickly. So just carrying weight in general, I suppose. But I don't know, maybe it's my imagination. But loading top, like, it seems to be easier and easier to balance, as opposed, I might have had slightly, another, maybe one side might have been a kilo heavier or 2 kilo heavier, maybe that made a bit of difference. But I think that's part of the thing of panniers versus like just a bag, is that there's a lot more faff involved. You have to pack them kind of carefully and in a certain order, so you can get things out first and so on. And you tend to fill them, because they're not very big. And it's useful to have a little bit of extra space, kind of, which you might have a little bit of, but like with just a bag on the back, you'll tend to have just kind of loose, unorganized space, which is actually kind of useful when you're traveling, because you can just open it, sling in a bottle of water or whatever, and you're not kind of trying to find specifically where it would go. What I've done with the bike is working for sure. But like I say, it just involves a little bit more time lost and interfering with things. So I'm not sure whether I'll get it yet. But I mean, I think for the harder off-road bits, I was able to do it. Maybe that contributed in a good way. Nice to get out. I don't even really know where I am. Somethingshire. I'm not quite as far up as I hoped I would have been today, specifically. So maybe that means I'll change my plans a little bit tomorrow. Although I have, what day's tomorrow? I've got a bit of the day to make up that difference, but I'll decide. I do need a bit of an internet connection in the morning. And I do need to get to the peaks tomorrow, to the lakes tomorrow as well. So I do have a bit of a deadline. Whoa, where's... So yeah, day one. Peak District, the Lake District via the TET, going well. Quite quiet as well. I saw 2 adventure bikes today, no dirt bikes. This is a Thursday today, not the weekend, so all these routes I guess are relatively quiet, but that's nice. Okay, good night, and another update in the morning.